talking about your children. That was very, very touching. My recipe is really simple. I've done a lot of financial planning for my son, but full shot, if I don't like his wife, he's not getting any of it. So it doesn't matter, right? I'm going to keep it safe. All right. So, good afternoon. I'm in Toronto, East Coast time. So, good afternoon and happy Friday to everybody. And thank you so much for joining us. This is a phenomenal event. Like Sheldon mentioned, the G21. This is historical event tonight. And we really want to make sure that all of you not only get the value of what's being taught to you, but also that you get the nuggets that you need in order to take the action that you require. Because see, true education is only when you act upon it and get the desired result. Because knowledge is potential power. So today, not only do we want to provide you with the knowledge, but we also want to take you on a journey that's going to be a journey that we're going to be together on. So my part is the fun part. I don't know if it's because of my age that they put me in the retirement section, but today I really want to share with you all about retirement. And just a little bit about myself. I've actually been in the industry. See, that's why I said my age, over 25 years now. And it's just been such a great journey. I joined this company over 13 years ago, and the reason I joined this company was similar to Mark. I was, struggling, living paycheck to not even paycheck to paycheck. It was really tough. So thinking about retirement was not even in my vocabulary. I didn't even think it was possible. And then I was in my calculus class, and my teacher showed us the power of saving early and compounding your money. And I looked at that, and I was 17 years old, and I remember thinking to myself, oh, so if I start saving now, I'll be okay, right? But how many 17-year-olds do you think are saving for retirement right now, right? So that wasn't happening. So let me share with you, what are the fundamentals that we need to understand prior to us actually going out and making a solid foundation for ourselves. So when we talk about retirement planning, we really here are talking about controlling your finances because we're not talking about it in the short term, but we're actually having the vision for the long term. A lot of us, we always say, when is retirement? Retirement has nothing to do with your age, but it has everything to do with how much you have saved. And I'll share one thing with you. Imagine today, just, close your eyes and imagine that your checking account looks like your phone number. How would that feel? Right? How would that feel? Now, I know, of course, you're like, what's wrong with this lady, right? She's talking crazy, right? But no, seriously, if we are in North America just to get by, we came to this country to be ahead. We're in one of the wealthiest countries in. People work hard all their lives, but they're retiring poor. And that's right out of our Saving Your Future book. So why do I start with that? Is because we need to understand the fundamentals of building a financial foundation. So it's interesting. How many of you would live in a house that the roof was put on before the foundation? I can probably see all of your hands right now going up and everybody saying, no, we wouldn't. Right. So the question really is, then why do we do that with our finances? We're actually, most of us, oh, no, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But here's the right way. So whatever you've learned up until today, let's delete it. June 25th is your day to start new. So whatever happened before this date, it doesn't matter because now you can build a foundation properly. So you're going to hear about this in our next workshop, proper protection and how to do that properly. Then we already talked about, Mark shared amazing stuff about debt management. The debt roll up is my best friend, let me tell you, and it feels great to be a Canadian debt-free family. And then, of course, number one reason people fall into debt is due to a lack of emergency fund. So be ready for those rainy days. I have, Mark's going to laugh at me here, but, I have a lot of people, they're Filipino background. And if they have to have an umbrella in the slightest of rain, and think about this. What is your umbrella right now for those emergencies? You don't want to get sick. You don't want to have anything happen to you. So you better be prepared. So the emergency fund is having your umbrella always ready for you. And then last but not least is investments. And that's actually what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to share with you, where should we be saving for our retirement? But I have a couple of questions for you. So first of all, do you guys see that retirement stool? How many of you guys would like to sit on that? I've gained a few pounds over the pandemic. I don't want to sit on that stool. It does not look good. It does not look confident at all. Right? So I wouldn't want to do that. But there's a few questions here that I want you to ask yourself. Will I have enough savings when I retire? What are the tax implications to my savings? What if I outlive my savings? I got a health scare when I was 25 years old, and I'm not planning on leaving early now. Hey, if God didn't take me then, I said, okay, let me stay a little longer. Give me a little bit bonus, right? So I'm here with my bonus now. And then, of course, what if I become critically ill? Right? These are fundamental questions that we need. And I know we're in Canada and we think, oh, God bless our healthcare system. But let me tell you, there's a lot of gaps in our healthcare system. There's a lot of, missing links that we don't realize. I had a friend of mine who got cancer and she was undergoing treatment. And in that treatment, she had to pay out $2,000 a month for the treatment. It wasn't covered by our healthcare system at that time. So now, why do I share that? Well, because we need to understand the wealth formula. So maybe you've seen this before. You've seen it in our book that we've released as well. But in this formula, we talk about the key components that need to go in to truly have wealth. We talk about wealth on many, many different levels. Wealth is definitely something that everybody when I ask them, what does wealth mean to you? They say, oh, money. I said, yes, that's right. Money's one ingredient, but you got to give it time. You got to give it a great rate of return. And you got to understand the impact of inflation and taxation on your money. Now, I don't want to talk about all the other components so much today because actually we are here to grow our money, save your money, and build and protect your money. So if that's what we want to do, now let's ask ourselves, what are the implications of taxes on our money? Because if we can understand the potential impact of it, we can actually have a lot more for our future. So here we go. Tax implication. There are 3 buckets. So, back in the days, people used to have buckets to go get water and fetch it from the well and bring it back. We're not going to make you do all of that. Okay. But we are going to make you look at these buckets very clearly. So the first bucket is what we call taxable, right? Or tax now. And what normally these type of accounts, they're going to be added either as income, capital gain, or dividends on your income tax when you file your taxes. The second bucket is tax deferred, which means it's going to grow. But when you withdraw them, you will be taxed on the distribution. Okay. And the last one, and probably the most preferential basket, is tax advantage. I mean, these are not really good baskets. I see that, but they're pale, same difference, right? But tax advantages, and it's very, very unique because the assets grow tax deferred. And also you can access your money in a very tax advantageous way and with or preferential tax basis. So now if I ask you a question, or we can ask, we can have a poll right now. It just popped up on your screen. Which one would you prefer to grow your retirement within? Would you prefer to grow your retirement in tax now, tax deferred, or tax advantage? All right, so you can fill that out if you feel like it, but it's there, and I would love for you to be interactive with us today and be engaged with us. Because at the end of the day, we want to look at something that I'm going to illustrate here very quickly for you is what we call the financial timeline. So the financial timeline shows today, and on the other side of the spectrum, age 100. I hope you go past that, but we're just going to go with age 100 just based on statistics. 2 major milestones are going to happen. The one I'm talking about to you today, which is retirement. And one day, unfortunately, we all do have to go upstairs. We just don't know when that is, right? We all know our birthday, but we don't know our expiry date, right? So that's why we prepare without knowing. Okay. So today, what's happening? We're all working. We're working for money because we got lots of living expenses to cover. And then we have to think about retirement. And we're like, well, where's the extra money to save for retirement? So average in Canada, most people, when you ask them, when do you want to retire? What do they say? 65, because that's when the government gives me some stuff. And then they expect the government to be okay and enough for them to survive on. But the reality is we have to prepare for 20 years. And is that going to be enough? Well, have you looked at the numbers so far? I'll tell you a funny story. My mom, she didn't work. She looked after us growing up. And when she was getting 65, She called the government. She goes, "Oh, I'm retiring and I'm going to get my old age security." And, I think, Sheldon, what happened is they told her, they said, "Oh, you know what? You're going to get $313." My mom was ecstatic. She goes, "I haven't done anything and I'm getting $313. This is amazing." I said, "Mom, come on," right? But like, what I'm trying to get at, it's not a lot. The average person is receiving less than $800 a month. So it's not sufficient enough for us to survive. And then, of course, where else do we save? Maybe in different accounts like our pension plans, RSPs, savings account. But hey, are these all going to be taxable when we access them? Are they going to be in the tax deferred basket? I think so. Now, the big question is, what if the guy upstairs calls us early? What happens to all the money that we have built up for those 20 years? Well, it's going to go through something we call the estate process. And you can see all the different beautiful fees that exist. You got probate fees, legal fees, accounting fees, appraisal fees, executor fees, and taxes. They don't leave you when you're gone. Actually, they do. You're not here, but they leave it for your family. And then after that, everything gets distributed as per your will. So what we're going to do, step one, we're going to cover the living expenses. Make sure you have the emergency fund and proper protection built in. Then, of course, you want to make sure that you're going to invest and grow your money tax deferred so that you can accomplish that wealth building that you need for retirement. But then at retirement, what do we want? We want to access our money, tax advantage, and bypass the probate in case the date comes early. But of course, what if the date doesn't come? Like for myself, I'm anticipating about 108. So guess what? I want to make sure I got income for life. I want to make sure that I have looked at. Now, everything I'm sharing with you here is absolutely possible. You need to get educated. You need to attend our workshops. You need to learn and come and join our campaign so you can actually be a part of the financial literacy of the 30 million people that we're going to educate. Canadian population is just over 33 million people. Why not educate all of Canada, right? Can you imagine our country? It would be phenomenal. So, you're going to learn about the 4 vehicles of where we build wealth and how they're going to be tax deductible, when you're going to get the money, how they're going to grow, and how when you take them out, how they're going to be taxed. And we have RSPs on here. We call these the 4 vehicles of building wealth. So you have RSPs, you got non-registered, your tax-free savings, and also Folashade talked about whole life and the universal life strategy as well. So there's many, many different ways. Now, if you look at this screen, let me ask you a question. Are you on track for your retirement? And which vehicle are you using? Are you using walking, running, a car, or an airplane to get to your retirement? The choice is yours, but now you've gotten financially educated, you can make that difference. So the last thing I want to just quickly touch upon here is, as my time wraps up with you all, is what if I do become critically ill? Well, you know what? There's something called critical illness insurance benefit. And in Canada, what it does is it actually, first of all, you get it without having to pay tax on it. You get it lump sum of an illness. Like I'll tell you, when I was 25 years old, they didn't know what was wrong with me. And I wish I had a critical illness policy because I couldn't go to work for 3 months. 3 months. How was I going to pay my bills? And worse, what if I wanted another opinion from a doctor? What if I wanted to get a second assessment done? Right? But critical illness gives you all those options. And the money is given to you to be used in any way you feel suitable to get better. So, please look into this because this is truly something that could protect your family at the time of need. Sometimes, right now, critical illness is probably at its peak. We just came out of a pandemic. We're opening up. Things are going to be amazing now, for all of us. And I pray all of us vaccinated, we're going to be very strong. But critical illness is still something we all need to be aware of, especially with the big 4, heart attack, bypass, stroke, or, I went blank. Heart attack, bypass, stroke, and cancer. So, make sure that you're prepared in those events. So I just want to wrap up with this. The reason we are sharing all of this with you is because we have an amazing cause to educate everybody. And like I said, let's educate 30 million families. Being financially educated on how to prepare is the foundation to a great retirement. We can talk all we want about products, but the real foundation is your understanding of what you need to do. So, with that, I truly, truly thank all of you for spending your time with us here because we really do believe in your future. And that's why we're here today, because you know what? My journey has been amazing, and it's going to continue to be amazing. And I want you also to be a part of it. And I would love to get to know all of you that are in this session with us today. So thank you so much, Sheldon. I turn it back to you.
I told you, didn't I warn you guys that you were gonna be blown away? I mean, I'm blown away again. You know, this message, this training today was just amazing. And I learned so much, even though it's not the first time, but just hearing it again and again is definitely the best way to go about it. Sorry